Welcome to the advisory deck. We are out here on location today in the beautiful Waite Arboretum. I'm Troy Forrest from Strategy Road, and I'm joined by James McGill from Chatham Capital Exchange. How are you this morning, James?
I'm looking forward to summer, even though it's mid-December. We're standing here what should be really nice and warm by now, and it's still cold. I'm looking forward to a warm video. Might be next year. Next year.
We have a very special guest with us this morning. This is Alex Thomas from Alex Thomas Pty Ltd and Planter Seed for Safety. Alex is a dynamo, and we're really excited about sharing a little bit of her story and I suppose what she's trying to do in this space of work health and safety in and around agriculture in particular. How are you, Alex?
Very well, thank you, Troy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Do you want to just explain a little bit about, I suppose, the two businesses that you have, one being a consultancy in the work health and safety sort of space, and the other, which is this, I'll let you describe it, but Planter Seed for Safety, what it is and what it's about.
Yep, absolutely. So Alex Thomas Pty Ltd is entirely original in its naming. Is really, it must have been lacking for inspiration on that day, but is really about me helping my clients, medium to large size organisations in agri and in mining and stuff like that, recalibrate the narrative around health and safety. So rethinking policies, procedures and paperwork and taking a people-based approach and connecting with the true intent of legislation, which is to just not kill someone.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So taking away all of that bureaucratic stuff and just trying to cut to the chase.
Yep, pretty much, cutting the crap. And Planter Seed for Safety, on the other hand, is really a social change initiative centred in rural communities, and that's about putting health, safety and wellbeing front of mind and getting people home safely to their families at the end of each day.
Okay. Do they complement one another? Do they dovetail together? Are they entirely separate beasts?
No, they definitely complement one another. I mean, I guess one of the interesting learnings, I guess, as a rural kid myself, is that, you know, there really is no line between what's considered work and what's considered home.
Yeah.
So I guess to differentiate the two, notwithstanding the fact that they're two entirely different businesses, I've had to be very deliberate with Planter Seed for Safety, given the audience that I'm working with, in not entertaining work health and safety, because in a rural context there's no line between what's considered work and what's considered home.
In your consulting business, there are hundreds of health and safety consultants, probably thousands around the country. What do you do that's different that makes clients choose you versus the other dozens of small consulting firms versus, you know, large consulting firms? Why are you different?
So it's been an interesting, work health and safety in and of itself as a profession has an interesting history in the sense that there's not a whole lot within our space that have actually been through and got a tertiary education. And most people, there was a massive sort of phase of safety professionals that got tickets out of Weet-Bix boxes and then called themselves safety professionals, and with that came this you know, they welded themselves to the belief that work health and safety is all about compliance and box ticking and legislation, and it's what we kind of got the new school safety professionals coin as the more traditional bureaucratic approach to health and safety. And it's not for lack of trying on their behalf, it's just sort of how things have evolved. So I differentiate myself based on two things. One, because I've got a very personal story and a very innate sense of purpose around my role, well, you know, my upbringing, I guess, in rural areas, and the role that I play in caring for my disabled dad as a result of his time on the land. So that's the first thing, so having a really clear why. And the second thing is that, you know, although I spent the good part of my early career towing the party line or the company line around the bureaucracy side of things, I learnt, you know, relatively quickly and got increasingly frustrated with that, because it's not very outcomes focused in terms of actually getting people home safely at the end of each day. So there was a really cool opportunity to change the language, to hook into that why, and to just start to posit myself in a different way.
Yeah. Fantastic. I guess, you know, in a space where, as you say, it has been dominated by language around bureaucracy and legislation and acts and all manner of things, how are you finding that sort of cutting to the chase? Let's boil it all down to why we actually created this idea of work health and safety in the first place. How are you finding the markets responding to it?
I think it's been really good. I've got a colleague, Andrew Barrett, who shares the same sort of line of thought around this stuff, and he made a comment recently that work health and safety is so poorly marketed.
Right.
I mean, there's actually, personally, and I'm obviously biased, there's nothing more sort of exhilarating than working in a profession that's about saving people's lives, and that's as simple as it gets. And so to change the language, to cut the crap, you know, infuse my approach with storytelling and a more human approach to facilitating change within organisations, I think has been received really well. There's still, you know, there's perpetual fear amongst organisations that they're going to go to jail for not being compliant, and so it's not, my approach is not for everyone, but in my view, if you stop people from getting hurt in the first place, then you don't have a compliance problem. So it's just a different lens.
So your clients, you're saying your clients have to be brave because they deliberately choose a different path if they work with you.
Yeah.
So you're clear about who you are, you're clear about the vision, you're clear about the fact that not every client who is out there looking for a consultant is someone you want to work with either.
Yep.
So that differentiation is pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
We don't hear that a lot.
No.
We talk about small businesses and consulting firms and anyone selling a product or a service. Often they go, I've got a great product or service and I think the entire market should be buying from me.
Yes.
You're quite clear about you're not for everyone and you're okay with that. So you're not trying to be big. So does that mean you don't want to scale? You don't want to be Alex Thomas and 100 consultants working with you. You want to be personalised. You're making the difference. So you're not a commodity that's scalable. You're quite niche and focused and looking for like-minded companies to work with.
Yes, yep, definitely. And in a sense, I think because of you know, the fear of penalties and stuff like that, you know, lots of organisations have to go and try a lot of different things before they get to the point of going, this is not working, we need to change things up, and we want to bring our people on this journey, rather than it being a siloed approach to health and safety where you have the health and safety professional sitting in the office pumping out paperwork, and you know, really that is just generating a false sense of security for the business. But you know, you've got to be ready, I suppose, to try something different.
So your business model for Alex Thomas is quite clear.
Yep.
It's about you with a small number, whatever the number is, it's a small number of clients that you work with around the country. Plant a Seed for Safety is quite different though, isn't it? Because with Plant a Seed for Safety, you're trying to not scale you, but take a concept and scale that across Australia, I guess New Zealand as well. Can you explain what Plant a Seed for Safety is and how you plan on going about making the difference in regional communities across the country?
So health, safety and wellbeing hasn't been a sexy topic in any community, let alone in agricultural or rural communities. So I think it's and that's for a number of reasons, notwithstanding the whole work health and safety thing, which is diametrically opposed to just talking about health, safety and wellbeing in general. So this holistic approach to planting a seed or nurturing change is just about having conversations and raising awareness.
Where did that come from?
Look what I prepared earlier.
I love it, Alex. And I was listening to a speaker the other day talk about the power of symbolism and having something that people then get this idea of this is planting a seed.
Yeah, that's right, I know. So I mean, Plant a Seed for Safety, the original concept had a really strong focus on rural women as key influencers in rural communities, their businesses and industries and so on and so forth. And you know, rural women are often leading the conversation around health and safety and wellbeing as it is. So I've profiled over 80 women online and their stories more generally, but also what their messages are around turning up the volume on what's working well from a health and safety perspective in rural communities, and taking that lens of appreciative inquiry rather than smashing people with reactive, negative, morose information about health and safety. So yeah, across Australia and New Zealand, profiling rural women. There's an accompanying social media campaign, which obviously, I mean, connecting with people, rural people, that's the easiest, fastest, most impactful way to get a message out there. And more recently, there's a pilot program in the Barossa Valley, which is really about bringing the conversation to rural communities more directly. And instead of just focusing on one sort of demographic of influences within the rural ecosystem, being rural women, it's about bringing schools online and bringing pubs online and sporting clubs, industry associations, grower groups, and you know, having a greater impact, I guess.
I think one of the things that's so impressive and interesting about what you're doing, and we had the privilege of getting along to the Eden Valley Hotel a few weeks ago for your launch, which was telling stories, telling real earthy, authentic stories in the front bar of a pub in a space. We're not in a lecture theatre, we're not sort of getting the high-vis kind of drilled into us, here's the 47 things you've got to do to be safe at work. Real honest and open stories, and in communities where that style of storytelling storytelling seems to really resonate. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been really lucky. I mean, I think show me a farmer or a rural person that doesn't love sitting down and spinning a yarn. So no, that event, and then the one that followed at the Eden Valley Cricket Club was so centered around storytelling. And refreshingly, I asked for some feedback from the public in the Eden Valley Hotel, which is a great spot to go and check out. Great food, great drinks. And she said that the conversation has been rehashed and more stories have come out over the bar since that original event. Yes. So in terms of what success looks like, for me, that's it.
And so your idea is to take that from the Barossa and then find similar communities in wherever, whether it's mid-north of South Australia or the far west of WA, it doesn't matter where.
Yeah.
But to create, I guess, I'm not sure the toolkit's the right word, but a framework that allows people to go, hey, it's okay to talk about being safe. I think that's probably the key message really, isn't it? That you don't have to be an idiot. Don't be an idiot. Get home safely. Do things. If it takes 5 minutes longer, take 5 minutes longer.
Yeah.
If you're too tired and exhausted, don't go and do it. It'll be there tomorrow. Yeah. So your idea is to scale the conversation and scale the ability for people to come and say, I'll talk to my mate about getting home safely.
Yes.
Because reading a brochure or reading something in a magazine or seeing it on TV doesn't cut through for this. This is changing real behaviours, which you don't do by, you can support it by social media and TV, but you don't really make the change. That's your key driver, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Get in front of people and talk about it.
Absolutely. And I think like there's nothing more inspiring for rural communities than hearing from their own people. So it's not about me, it's about these rural communities and what it means to them. So I'm very deliberate in being non-prescriptive around the topics that I want people to talk about, because everyone's got their own individual story, and the more authentic the message is, the more impactful it is. So it's about slowing down, speaking up and taking care and recognising that rural communities are disproportionately affected by road accidents, suicide, unfortunately, obviously health and safety incidents on farms and stuff like that. So, and then again, men. So the sort of sub-tagline of Plant a Seed for Safety is save a life, listen to your wife.
So it's a noble cause. To work and be effective at scale, it has to be able to pay for itself somehow. So how does the business model work? What do you need to make something like this happen? Because you could fund it if it's one in the Barossa, that's easy. You go, I can go to the Barossa and do something. If you want to be running 20 Plant a Seed for Safeties around the country in the next X number of years, and that's kind of your aspiration, right, to grow at that scale. How do you fund that? What's the business model look like? What do you need to make these sort of things come to life?
So it's been like reflecting on this. I mean, I have a baby now, so that obviously cuts at least half of the resource, the former resource out. But this started in 2018, so it's been going for nearly 4 years. And because the topic of health, safety and wellbeing in rural communities has been unsexy, for want of a better word, I've had to build it to where it is now by using award platforms and the media to generate some interest in doing something differently. And I think now is the perfect time to really start thinking about what the value proposition is for sponsors and other people to get on board and make this happen across the country. So I think social media, the demonstrated reach and the engagement, the number of people turning up to events, the opportunity to get sponsors in front of those groups that they may not otherwise be in touch with, I think is probably where it's headed.
To do what you're doing, to build a successful consulting business, and you're in the early phases of things here and juggling a family as well, to maintain the energy to keep that evangelical zeal, which is what's required, right, to get that cut through.
What a description.
Well, and that's what you are. You're a catalyst to try and get more enthusiasm going and buy into the idea of why this is so damn important. And you've got a very deeply personal, passionate story that drives you. How are you keeping your energy up, Alex?
Oh my lord! Well, it's freezing this morning, so that's a fire starter.
Keeps you alive.
Great question. I think it's if you'd have told me what parenthood was like, it's the cliche. If you told me what it was all about before, which everyone did, and I ignored them, and whatever. It's the eternal recalibrator. And to be honest, before I had Louis, every second of my day was absorbed by working. Unfortunately, and that's comes with self-employment, comes with being passionate about something. So I've really had to practice what I preach. And like James said to me, and I'm fortunate to have him on my advisory board, he said recently, you just need to go and walk out in the sun. Like, just go for a walk. And I was like, oh crap, yeah, I really never do that. So
We suck at taking our own medicine
I
sometimes.
know, I know. So I really have, and I'm really fortunate. We've just purchased a house in the hills, and I think getting out of the craziness of town will be lovely.
Fantastic.
Work's always there, right? You wake up in the morning, there'll be something else to do.
It is. It's an important business, right? An important business in the early phases of the curve, driven by someone with an incredible passion for what is the ultimately important topic, right? Get everyone home safe. That's sound every single night. You know, interesting challenges ahead, but something worth checking out. And here's the details of Alex's sites. Have a good look at it, and if it's something that you think you can get involved in a conversation with Alex about, please, we urge you to get in touch. We're super thrilled for you and the journey that you're on, and really appreciate you sharing, I suppose, a little bit about Plant a Seed for Safety and your consulting business with us on the advisory deck.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for having me.
Well done.
Thank you.
James, as always, thank you. Thanks for joining us on the advisory deck. Our details are down below if you want to get in touch. These are the kind of conversations we love having with business owners. So we'll see you next time on the advisory deck.
Yeah.